because we are the official sponsor of the Ukraine war, similar to America, who is sponsoring the Ukraine war, but doesn't want it to keep going. But if it does, if it happens to, remember when this started a year ago, the Ukraine war? Remember about a year ago, the Ukraine war started, Russia invaded the Ukraine, and the idea was that there would be some type of push for peace, that this would end or someone would want this to end. And that has not been the case. We are now a year in. And, now we're saying Russia will never win in Ukraine. So it's the American position that Russia has to lose, which is different from the American position saying we would like peace. Peace would mean, or you would think it would mean, that both countries made some agreement, and that the fighting war would cease. There'd be a treaty. We know how this works. But now President Biden has come out and said there will be no victory for Russia in Ukraine. Russia will never win. Russia is now pulled out of a nuclear proliferation treaty with us. Symbolic for sure. Who knows? Not that treaties keep people from doing anything they want to do anyway. But, it's sad that anybody is dying, right? So we all feel bad for any civilian in the Ukraine that has been killed, anybody in Russia that has been drafted in to go fight this war. We feel bad for anybody that's life is being thrown into the abyss. You're throwing these people's lives into this black hole. But, now we are basically saying we like it. The idea that we don't like the Ukraine war has to be destroyed. We love it. We enjoy it. We like it. It's good for the weapons industry. It's good for our, and by the way, what else are we going to talk about? We like talking about the Ukraine war. It's good for our country to take the focus off of the things that we don't really love about what's happening in our country and put it on the Ukraine. And we kind of like, it's a fun pastime right now. It's like sports. The Super Bowl's over. So this is kind of the new thing. This is another article here in the New York Times, which the New York Times is now the official, U.S. It's always been, but specifically for this war. Very exciting here. Not peace, mind you, not steps towards peace. In the New York Times, some of the best weapons in the world are now in Ukraine. They may change the war. So we're now celebrating the weaponry that we sent. Not any steps towards any type of agreement that would stop fighting. Tens of billions of dollars of weapons have flowed from Europe and North American countries into the Ukraine. Rifles, bullets, missiles, artillery. Yeah, baby. At first, the nations insisted that the weapons were defensive, designed to help the Ukraine fight off the invasion. 1 year later, as the battered but still potent Russian military prepares for a renewed offensive, the type of weapons heading into Ukraine have changed dramatically. Now they're getting the good stuff. Now they're getting the stuff that they've kind of always wanted. The distinction, my favorite line here, the distinction between offensive and defensive weapons was always a little bit arbitrary. It's a little bit arbitrary. It doesn't really matter what we're giving them. Are we giving them things to defend themselves or to keep this going or to push in to expand the scope of the war? We don't know. We're just giving them fun stuff and they're having fun. And that's just good old-fashioned American money laundering, slush fund, empire building stuff. This is what we do. I'm just, it's unfortunate. We're enjoying this though, and we're enjoying it a little too much. It's a little scary how much we're liking it. We have an article in the New Yorker, can psychedelics heal Ukrainians' trauma? So we're basically like, let's not end the trauma. Let's not end it. Microdose mushrooms take some psychedelics, get a shaman, take some ayahuasca. It'll be like the war's not even happening. You can therapeutically cleanse yourself of war. We're not going to stop the actual war, but you can feel better about the war with a nice psychedelic regimen. Meanwhile, in New York, a Ukrainian delegation, including a representative for the Territorial Defense Forces, had gathered to consider other types of aid. The goal, according to an ad for the event, was to promote the psychological and spiritual resilience of Ukrainian people living in trauma, crisis, and war. It's the psychological resilience. We're promoting it's tough. We know it's tough. We know it's tough, and we know that we could maybe, in a way, kind of push for some type of peace talks, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to stop this war. In fact, we're going to pour gasoline. We are now pouring gasoline on this. It's wrong that Putin invaded. All war is terrible. But the idea that we want this to stop is kind of hilarious. And now we're basically telling the Ukrainians, you better use drugs because we're not ending this shit. So you better start using psychedelic drugs, whatever it is. Here's great. Dmitriev, whoever this guy is, kicked things off by telling this group, okay, through a translator, that he hopes to train 1,500 military chaplains in special spiritual resilience program. So the new plan for the Ukraine war is to have the chaplains act as shamans and guide people through microdosing and ayahuasca so they can feel better about this war. So they can work through their trauma. And I'm not saying psychedelics don't have a place in therapy of trauma. Here's what also is really good in terms of therapy and trauma. Stopping the trauma. Stopping the trauma. Not spending billions of dollars to keep the trauma going. That helps as well. Yes, stitches can help wounds. Also, not throwing a kid off a fucking roof. Like, there's other ways to calm this fucking thing down. But as the official sponsor of the Ukraine war, we like the idea that we are participating in a very confusing battle where there are no real clear objectives and very little identifiable national interest. So we can just kind of rev this baby, rev it up, let it go. 20 years, a 20-year war here would be our best case scenario, a 20-year war that bleeds Russia dry. Now, here's the other thing I want to get into because, I mean, the Ukraine, we'll check in on it every now and then. It's the year anniversary. Congrats. But we're not going to, we can't, it can't be all Ukraine all the time, even though we are the official sponsor of the Ukraine war and will continue to be. And we will provide people in the Ukraine with whatever they need, whether it be shroom tea or whatever helps them deal with the bombings that our money and support guarantees will not end. Also, China is now stepping in. China is now stepping up to do a peace treaty in the Ukraine. China is stepping up to do it, whereas America, we are, proceeding with the ayahuasca retreats. Beijing says it wants to play a more active role aimed at ending the conflict. Boo! Maybe they're not going to end it either. I don't know. I'm not going to take them at their word for it. Maybe nobody wants it to end. Nobody wants this war to end. Nobody wants it to end. I'm sorry. We can't have it end now. We're in it. It's just a good pillar of the news. Nobody wants it to end. It's accomplishing a lot of things for a lot of people. There's a lot of people with financial interest in this.